needlepoint. All looked in perfect order. The customer was a medium-sized woman in a long tweed coat, and in her hands hung a sky-blue drawstring plastic bag. It had Cruel World printed on it in little X's, as if worked in cross-stitch. "Good morning, Mrs. Schuster," said Betsy.
"Good morning, Betsy. I was on my way to the Waterfront Cafe for breakfast when I saw lights on in your shop and stopped to see if I could pick up my order of magenta silk, and Godwin was kind enough to unlock the door."
"How's the project coming?" asked Betsy, going behind the big desk that served as a checkout counter.
"Very, very well," said Mrs. Schuster.
Encouraged by the question and still pleased at Godwin's compliments, she pulled a needlepoint canvas from the bag. It was a square canvas of grapes and grape leaves, not quite abstract. The stitching was an appropriate and very competent basket weave. When finished and framed, it would hang in the office of a friend of Mrs. Schuster's, who vinted wines as a hobby. The grapes were being done in silk. The leaves were already stitched in various green wools.
"Oh, I like how it's turning out,"
said Godwin, coming to look.
"You were so clever to do the grapes in silk, to make them shimmer."
He cocked his head.
"Chalk white wool for the background, of course."
"Yes, of course," said Mrs. Schuster, and Betsy shot him a grateful look. Mrs. Schuster had taken up a lot of Betsy's time discussing colors and fibers for this project and had changed her mind 3 times about the background. But Betsy wasn't surprised that Mrs. Schuster was quick to take Godwin's suggestion. The young man had developed a serious talent for needlework during the 2 years he'd worked for Betsy's sister, and now for Betsy. That he was gay only added to his reputation for selecting the right color and texture for any project. Betsy was new in town, and not knowledgeable about needlework or about running a shop. Cruel World had been her sister's, and for her sister's sake, its customers were giving her every chance to climb the steep learning curve into the intricate world of needlework. Mrs. Schuster left with her magenta silk and enough white wool to do the background of her project. As she went up Lake Street, her breath streamed out behind her. "Brr," thought Betsy, "and it's not even Halloween yet." She looked around again. The track lights were on, the front door unlocked, the needlepoint sign turned so that "Open" faced the street. When Mrs. Schuster had paid her bill, Betsy had put the $40 of startup money in the old-fashioned cash register. The hot dust smell in the air meant Godwin had turned up the heat. Even as she turned to remind him, he was stooping to turn on the Bose radio, tuned to a classical music station. Sophie clambered up onto her chair, the one with a powder blue cushion that set off her white fur with the tan and gray patches perfectly. They were ready for business. "What brought you in early?" asked Betsy. "Oh, John was being a pissant last night, so I just went to bed early. And so I got up early, and so here I am." John was the wealthy lawyer Godwin lived with, whose support enabled Godwin to work for slave wages at Cruel World. "Trouble?" asked Betsy. "Oh, nothing we haven't had before. He's so jealous. And really, right now I'm not giving him the least reason to be jealous." Godwin tossed his head. He was a slender man, a little under medium height, and his wardrobe tended toward Calvin Klein slim-fit jeans and silk knit shirts, though today, in honor of the season's change, he was wearing a brown plaid shirt under a fine-woven Perry Ellis sweater with textured pinstripes. His short hair was an enhanced blonde color, his eyes a guileless blue, his nose almost too perfect. He looked 18, though Betsy knew he would be 26 in December. Betsy smiled at him even as she hoped there wasn't a breakup in Godwin's future. He was her best employee, knowledgeable, loyal, and reliable. He could be charming, gossipy, witty, and sympathetic in turn with customers, all in an exaggerated, self-deprecating way designed to make them remember him, talk about him, and come back for more. Betsy sometimes wondered if there was a deeper, more reflective Godwin, though she had no intention of doing an archaeological dig on his personality. He suited her, and the shop, just fine.